everyone. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. I'm Lauren Conlin. If you are new to this channel, Pop Crime TV, don't forget to like and subscribe. We are doing our bi-weekly morning show here, and I'm so excited because in the green room right now, I have criminal defense attorney with decades of experience, Mark Bederow. You've seen him on every news outlet, the lawyer, every YouTube channel. I mean, he's pretty amazing. I had somebody actually call him Law Daddy. I forget who that was, but that made me laugh. But no, I can't believe I've never had Mark on a stream before or done an interview. So I'm excited. I have a lot of questions. I know that the Myles King hearing is going on right now. I was watching Melanie Little's channel right before this, but I have some other questions for Mark that I really want answered. Namely, I want his opinion about Sandra Birchmore or that case, Matthew Farwell specifically. There it is, Sherry, Law Daddy. There you go. Killa B, Brattle, and Bederow. You're so funny. And I do want to ask him some things about Turtle Boy's case, and we'll get into it. But I'm going to bring him in right now. Mark, good morning.
How are you? Nice to see you.
I'm great. I'm so happy to finally have you here. I mean, we met actually. I was such a loser.
Yeah, no, we met at
News
right?
Station.
Yeah, right
News
on
Station.
the
Yes,
Fox
yes.
Studios. Yeah.
Yes, and so I was going on about a different case, and Mark was talking Karen Reed, I think, with Jesse Weber, and he was coming out of the studio, and I was like, "Oh my God, Mark Bederow, I love you," and he was like, "Hey, what's up?"
Ships in the night.
Yes, you were very kind. You were very you were very nice to a weirdo fangirl. Oh, okay. So I see you. Proctor and Lally rescheduled for the 12th. Kicking the can down the road, it seems, like all these other cases, Mark.
It's the way it works out there. It's the way it works.
Okay, so we'll get to that, but speaking of kicking the can down the road, I do want to start with Matthew Farwell's federal trial. I mean, he has postponed pretty much every single hearing, and his team, from what I can see on Pacer in the docket, I mean, they haven't really filed any type of motions. They haven't asked for anything. I don't know what they're doing over there. I've had theories that there is a federal investigation going on specifically for this case, and the Stoughton police officers and whatnot. And I mean, I don't know what you think, but I think that he's waiting for some kind of deal to get death off the table. So please, let me know your thoughts on this.
Well, he was arraigned over a year ago, I think it is, literally at this point. He has not appeared in a district court since then. His case has been adjourned over and over. There is a federal speedy trial statute, which is usually taken very seriously. It's not like state court where you can just kick the can down the road. Normally, things tend to move faster. In federal court, things tend to be stricter. And yet, he just continues to have his case adjourned for no real discernible purpose, with the blessing of the government and the blessing of the court. So it naturally leads you to speculate what it could be. I mean, it is a death penalty eligible case. I don't think it's really a death case, and I don't think you would normally see it in the District of Massachusetts anyway, although it is a different Justice Department than it was a couple of years ago. Could they be meeting with the government, trying to convince them to take that off the table? Maybe.
That's what I was thinking.
I mean, you've seen some other suggestions, I guess, in some of the filings on Pacer that it's discovery related.
Yeah.
It's not the kind of thing that ought to take a year. I understand there's a lot of electronic data from devices and whatnot, but to not appear in court because of reviewing discovery for a year seems odd. So it leads you to kind of another third possibility, which is the kind of thing that no one would ever suggest publicly, which is whether he's attempting to cooperate. And you'd have to ask, cooperate against what? He's charged with killing someone, so he doesn't have much to give to help himself per se. But might he have things that could help the government related to other corruption involving this case, other cases? Who knows? It seems to me at this point that that's as likely a possibility as any other, that he would at least be trying to cooperate, but
Right.
given no one's appeared, all you can do is speculate. But I think that seems to be the most likely explanation at this point, that he's attempting to cooperate, whether it goes anywhere or not.
Well, I mean, but you don't think, I mean, I don't know, but you don't think he's like squealing on his own brother and his, his fellow officers
Uh,
that, yeah, I mean, what do you think?
I think generally people don't like to do that, but when you're in the can facing death,
Yeah.
not likely, but death, but almost certainly life incarceration, you'd be surprised what that does to loyalties, relationships, and your thought process. So I don't know
Yeah.
him. I don't know anything about him other than he's accused of a terrible, terrible crime and having a relationship, an abusive relationship, sexually abusing this poor girl over the course of however long it was.
Yeah.
So, does he have any loyalty to his family, other cops? Again, facing life and possibly worse in prison can really change your perspective. I don't know.
I mean, and at what point do you think the judge is finally going to be like, okay, guys, enough is enough. Cut the shit. You can't postpone this anymore. Because I guess I don't have a ton of experience with federal trials, but generally after, one or two, um, you know, cancellations, or I guess obviously delays, wouldn't the judge say what's going on unless they're privy to what's going on?
A year without an appearance after an arraignment is pretty rare. It's virtually unheard of without some sort of status conference, rather than just, again, waiving Speedy Trial Act with the consent of the government and the blessing of the court. So, yeah, at some point, something will have to be happening. Now, if they're far down the line of debriefing and there's
Yeah.
useful information being gathered, it's not the kind of thing you're going to advertise and have a court appearance and do that. So all it does is lead to speculation as to what's going on, and at least an attempt to cooperate seems as likely as anything else.
Right, right. And when the news came out that Matthew Farwell wasn't the father of her baby, I mean, I had many thoughts. I thought he was an idiot, and I know, listen, he is innocent until proven guilty. My opinion is that he is guilty, that he did it, and I
Mhm.
just thought to myself, what an idiot. Okay, what an idiot. This is why I believe allegedly he murdered her, because of this baby. He did not want this out there, and so I'm sitting here thinking, he's an idiot. This is awful. This didn't have to happen. And then I'm like, I think his team thinks this is a big win. I don't know, how you
Um,
can, right? No? What do you
no,
think? Okay.
no,
Okay.
because if he thought it was his child, then he has the same motive for the homicide. I mean, if that's the theory, is that he killed her to
Yeah.
prevent all of this. And if it turns out that he's just a dope and on top of everything else mistaken about who the father of the child is, if he believed it, then the government's theory would remain the same, is that he
Right.
killed her to prevent this from happening and being held responsible. And it just turns out that biologically he's not. I don't know why his team would perceive that to be a great victory unless it somehow blows up the theory of the case, which I don't think it would. If I mean, in his
No.
mind, he just turns out to be wrong, but he thought that nothing changes analytically.
Yeah, I guess I was confused because it seemed like it was his team doing the PR behind that. And maybe not, maybe I just perceived it that way. But what I was reading, it was almost like, hey, look, hey, look. And I was kind of like, who gives a crap? It doesn't matter. Like he looks dumber.
Yeah. It doesn't
Yeah,
change the other evidence that he might have been aware of. It doesn't change the communications. It doesn't change the fact of the relationship. It doesn't change the fact that he's on video going in there shortly
right.
before she's found. It doesn't change the medical data. That doesn't, hold up with the original Norfolk DA investigation. So again, is it interesting? Sure. Is it helpful in his mind? Maybe, but realistically, I don't think that's going to be the difference between him getting off or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't I mean, I guess at this point it's like anything could happen in a trial. I don't see this going to trial. That's my prediction, is sort of what, going back to what we said at the beginning. I think he's trying to work something out, because this is, I mean, it's going to be, I think for his family, his wife, and you know, forgive me if I'm incorrect, but I don't think she has divorced him. I don't, you know, I don't
Right.
know what's going on with that, but that would be a very painful thing, I think, for his family to go through. And so I think if he had any type of decency, right, he might take a plea deal and plead guilty for Sandra's sake as well, and her family. But
I don't think he'll do it out of concern for her or her family. It'll be out if he
right.
does it. Same with his cooperation. Whatever he does will be entirely out of self-interest, and his lawyers are
Yeah.
going to do what they perceive to be in his best interest and advise him accordingly. But I don't think anybody thinks that Matthew Farwell is going to do anything that is remotely thinking about anything other than number one, meaning
Yeah.
himself, which also, if that's his thought process, if he does have anything to attempt to give, he most likely will. And you know, his
Right.
lawyers understand that when you get indicted by the feds for these kinds of crimes, that generally, you know, the deck tends to be stacked against you, putting aside some other recent high profile federal trials in New York that maybe
Mhm.
didn't end up that way. But ordinarily, you know, the federal conviction rate is much higher than the state.
Totally, totally. And I don't know much about the federal jail in the Boston area. Do you know much about that jail, and about sort of what, I mean, I'm assuming because he's law enforcement, he's in solitary. Do you
Yeah.
think he's been in solitary for a whole year? Like, what do you think is going on over
I
there,
mean,
and how he's being treated?
I don't have any experience with, you know, the federal jail that they use in Massachusetts, but you know,
Mm,
it's a high profile situation. He's a notorious defendant. He's a police officer.
yeah.
He's essentially accused of raping and killing a child. So yeah, his custody level would be very secure, very protective. I mean, certainly as far as the law of the street that would go on inside of a jail, you know, he would be a high priority target for any of those kinds of things. So yeah, he would be highly protected, whatever you
Yeah.
think.
Totally. And just tying everything together here, because you know, it's been a rough couple years for Massachusetts. I mean, I remember, Mark, you know, before I really got interested in covering the John O'Keefe Karen Reed trial case, I had watched this thing on HBO Max about Charles Stewart. You know that case?
I grew up in Boston, and
Yeah.
I was in high school when Charles Stewart and all of that happened, and that
Yeah.
was shocking, what happened. And most kids or people who grew up there remember when he jumped off the Tobin Bridge, and it turned out that it was all a sham.
Yes.
Uh, yeah, no, I remember Stewart very well, and I did see the HBO series, but certainly I remember it in real time for sure.
Right. And that's incredible. But you know, I grew up in New Hampshire, and I wasn't, you know, I
Not
wasn't
too,
aware of this. What's that?
not too far.
Yeah, no, like close, but I just, you know, I
Yeah.
wasn't really paying attention. I do remember the Jeffrey Curley murder, because that was New Hampshire. You
Mhm.
know, but that, yeah, that's another time. But I just remember thinking they had these Boston police officers on the documentary who, I mean, they were proven wrong. They were proven to be completely wrong, and he still stood by, like, nope, this guy was guilty. This guy did it. And I'm like, this is horrible. This is giving Boston police officers a really bad reputation, you know, and it just seemed like it's just spiraled from there, right? Completely
I mean,
spiraled, especially, yeah, in the last few years.
yeah, I mean, everything that happened certainly with Stewart and the cops who did appear on the HBO special. I mean, they look terrible, obviously, and
Yeah.
there's nothing worse than digging in for the sake of digging in. You know, facts be damned. I mean, certainly, in all fairness, you know, the whole Karen Reed, Birchmore stuff, you know, that's suburban. That's Norfolk County, a little bit south of
Yeah.
Boston. It's, you know, 30 years after Stewart, give or take. It's the state police, local town police, a little different than big
Hmm.
city, you know, things. The Stewart case also was very racial, as
Yeah.
people remember. I mean, there was this whole controversy of the allegation was that, this black guy murdered a pregnant woman literally on the way to the hospital and all these terrible things, and turned out to be just a complete falsified thing by Stewart. So there are some differences, but there's no question that the Massachusetts, on a more macro level, criminal justice system doesn't look very good for a lot of reasons in the last several decades. That's true.
No, and I saw that, with Karen Reed's civil case, she was just demanding, a whole bunch of information on other cases that Michael Proctor worked. And I get it. I get it. This is not going away anytime soon. And, what are your predictions with the Karen Reed civil case? How do you think that's all going to play out? And the civil case against her as well by the O'Keefe family?
So I don't think, the current civil case against her is problematic. I don't think it's going to be, that interesting, legally speaking. She's not charged, she's accused of wrongful death. And if they have causation problems, which they clearly do based on the criminal case, I mean, between, if you remember, the engineering witnesses, the medical witnesses who are going to, pretty compellingly establish problems with concluding that she in any way caused his death. I mean, that would be the end of a suit against her. Whether the bars want to, write a small check to the O'Keefes to get out of it, that's neither here nor there. But the real issue, and especially how it relates to the Massachusetts system, the real nuclear bomb is going to be when the inevitable federal civil rights lawsuit drops, which, I mean, almost certainly, I would imagine that they're going to be filing a civil rights lawsuit against the state police, against certain members of the state police. And frankly, I think you'll probably see the rare defendant in these kinds of cases will include the Norfolk DA's office on what they call a Monell claim, under a theory that there is a pattern of misconduct and a lack of training, a lack of supervision, a lack of corrective behavior, just gross negligence in the way they prosecute cases by the Norfolk DA. And you've seen a lot of that evidence come out in this Myles King hearing, actually. So I think that's going to be the real problem. And when that lawsuit hits, they're going to depose people like Adam Lally, Brennan, Proctor, the other state troopers, almost certainly Morrissey. They're going to subpoena all kinds of personnel records, all kinds of training manuals, if they even exist, which you have to believe based on what you've seen in the Norfolk office probably don't exist. But that's going to be, I think, the real nuclear bomb that will blow the lid off the full problems that you see, in that particular DA's office and the state police who work out of that office.
I mean, this is not stopping anytime soon.
No.
This is crazy. I keep, and it's a lot to keep up with. So I'm trying my best, but I keep seeing something new pop up every day. And, just tying that with Turtle Boy's criminal case, you are working hard on that. I had Sherry emailed me this morning from the chat, and she's like, you have to see this. The judge loves Mark Bederow. Go to this section. He loves him. And so, because I was thinking, like, how is it possible that Turtle Boy would get a fair trial, right, in this venue? And it sounds like he is so far.
Yeah, I mean, look, nobody's going to suggest that the proceedings themselves, in terms of the court, it's par for the course. The reality is he has 3 separate cases. One of them's already been acquitted. There were 4. There's 3 to go. And, with the way these people operate, maybe there'll be more. You never know. But the real issue about a fair trial is, how the hell is anybody going to pick a jury in Norfolk County on these cases? I mean, it's everyone has an opinion about all of this. There's no doubt that in at least 2 of the 3 cases that we're dealing with, you can't erase the Karen Reed part of this. I mean, it's going to be a central component of those cases, is going to be the exact same witnesses, the exact same names, the exact same cops, and including certain people's opinions and thoughts about who was responsible for John O'Keefe's death and why they did what they did. And so you're going to see, to some extent, a relitigation of all of these issues that were first raised in Karen's case. And it's crazy. And these things drag on. And, there's still much discovery dispute, much other stuff to go. So this thing feels like it's going to drag on for quite some time.
Okay. So, I mean, there's no trial date set. There's nothing like that. You're not even close to that.
Not even close. There are, again, there are three separate cases. All of them are to a certain extent a mess with discovery that is outstanding and other things that need to be done. And, now these things just go and go. And who knows when these will actually, and again, you're talking three separate trials. So this just will continue.
I mean,
forever.
it's so wild. And do you think though, if you're getting a good feeling from this judge, that maybe a bench trial would be sort of in the cards?
Those things are always on the table. I'm actually a very large component generally in bench trials. I've said this to other people before. There are always reasons you may want that. There are always reasons you may not want that, given case to case. For example, I believe that if Judge Cannoni had not been the judge in Karen Reed's case, I think that I had said this publicly, that case screamed for a bench trial, just because there was a legal defense that seemed, relatively speaking, open and shut, and whatever it takes to minimize risk, you would do it. But, bench trials are on the table. The first trial that Aiden had of the four, that was a bench trial, and that was a swift acquittal. So, that's something that we all think about.
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. And I mean, for you, you came into, the Karen Reed orbit, and you were actually going to be, where you were invited to be on her legal team, and Judge Cannoni, she denied that. And I think when I saw you, that's what you were covering on News Nation is the denial. And I don't remember the reason. What was the reason for that you were denied?
The reason was there was what I call a non-objection objection from Brennan, alluding to the fact that because I represented Aiden and because they thought that Aiden and Karen were so intertwined, and that there was protected material that was being provided, that somehow there was a risk that I would. And in fact, I believe what Brennan said I already had, and this was an outrageous, inaccurate statement, in which, in my view, was just one of many that he made, reckless and not accurate. He suggested that I would essentially serve as a conduit between the two of them passing information. And, I had even said at the time that if he said that publicly and wasn't saying it in a courtroom, I would consider suing him for defamation. How ridiculous and outrageous, and without any factual basis to make such a ridiculous statement. And then basically the judge found that there was a non-waivable conflict without even asking to speak to me about it. It's normal in these situations for a judge to speak to a lawyer, even in camera, privately, outside. There were no actual conflicts. This thing was belts and suspenders ethically in terms of how to do this. I won't get into the details, but she just decided on the papers that there was an actual non-waivable conflict.
I mean, that is a super irresponsible statement. I don't recall that. And that is it. I agree with you. If that
was a lie, let's call it what it was. He was making things up.
Right. And that's what I mean. It's so irresponsible to say that out of nowhere, just because that's what you perceive, with your case. Now, I don't mean to beat this to death, I guess, and maybe that's the wrong phrase to use, but every time I do an interview, and somebody who's really, really privy to the John O'Keefe Karen Reed case, I always want to go back to the informant, Steve Scanlon. I have always been so confused and bothered by this, to the point that I had FOIA requested the Norfolk DA's office back in, I think it was like the beginning of 2024, all correspondences, involving him. They gave me some runaround that it would, I don't know, that I forget what the response was that they gave me, that I couldn't have it. but I just hear all of these different versions of what his story is, and we never got to hear from him on the stand. What is your version of all of this? Because in my opinion, this is how this entire case started, was Steve Scanlon messaging Karen on Facebook and then her saying, go to my lawyers, him talking to Yannetti and the PI he was using. And then from there, it was like, wait a second, don't plead guilty to this. I mean, is that your understanding as well?
Well, I don't want to get into detail. I don't want to do anything that could potentially, with all the future litigation that could be
Sure.
coming. And certainly wouldn't want to talk to anything that I would either be privy to that's not necessarily public, or just speculate. But in a macro sense, I mean, it's been reported that there was a PI who reached out to somebody, and I believe put them on the path that something happened in the house and that this was not a car accident. And, things kind of went from there. And then I think there's been some public discussion that there might have been some walking away from that, for whatever reason. And as this guy never testified at the trial, wasn't mentioned that much. So beyond that, I probably would just, out of respect for Karen and her current legal team, not get into that.
No, this is really interesting. And this is what I mean. Like, this is still a thing, I guess. And that's why I think anytime I bring this up, and nothing, I understand your position 100%, but this is what happens. And this is why I'm like, everybody has a different version of this guy. And I'm kind of like, I don't know if people really understand how important this is, or maybe not. I just, it's one of those things where I'm like, can we get a straight answer here? Can this guy just speak out? But I mean, I guess not, because he'd get it from both sides apparently. And I don't know much about him. So
yeah, no, it's kind of, it is kind of a bizarre background thing to what appears to be an interesting lead in to how did this theory arise that something happened in the house. And, again, if you believe that there was contact early in that way that led, to some possible alternative explanation other than a car accident, it turns out, as whatever people believe or don't believe or know or don't know about what happened in the house, it's really indisputable that the people who were in the house and who obviously became, at least in the first trial, key witnesses and for the most part disappeared in the second trial, it's really indisputable that they did engage in conduct that was absolutely weird and not consistent with just having nothing to do, or having not nothing to do, having no knowledge. And, you go to those text message exchanges they all had, you go to the butt dials, you go to the deleted messages, the Google search, whether you believe it or not. There's just a whole series of oddities that generally most reasonable people would say is not the way people would behave who know nothing about anything other than the clear misfortune of our good friend was found dead on our front lawn. I mean, I think that there's no question they acted in a bizarre manner. It doesn't mean they killed anyone. It doesn't mean they did anything other than act really suspicious and weird.
No, and so that, I think for me, I've said that this entire time. I don't know what a motive would be for those people to kill their friend. So I've always gone the route of like, I don't know what happened, but I don't understand some of the behavior, right? And I offer grace. I have not been in a situation like that before, but you're right. It's strange and it's tough to ignore. Go ahead.
Say, if you recall the family text message chain that I think included both McCabe's, Brian Albert, and Nicole Albert, everything in that text message chain was about staying ahead of the investigation and sharing knowledge about the investigation, who was doing what, who are the cops talking to, what are they being told, where are they going next. What are they investigating? And what you never saw, and, tell them the guy never went in the house, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What you never saw in that text message exchange was anything even as simple as the name John.
John.
Okay, it
Yeah.
was the guy. You never saw any concern or lamenting how awful this was. You saw them talking about things, worrying about themselves. And then when you
Yeah.
saw a second text message exchange between Jen McCabe and Kerry Roberts, you saw something totally different. You saw Jen McCabe almost using a tractor beam to pull Kerry Roberts in as they lamented and were saying, oh my God, this is terrible.
Yeah.
And then what you saw at the trial, you saw Kerry Roberts go from I don't know anything to, in essence, lying before the grand jury saying, I heard a Google search. And
Right.
not mentioning broken taillight and statements to her story changing after she was pulled in by that tractor beam and whatnot. And again, does that mean that they were guilty of doing anything? No, but you can't separate the family text message
Right.
chain where they're talking about who knows what. She's telling them everything. And what are we doing? What are the cops doing? Don't tell them the
Right.
guy in the house, to the other messages, the deleted messages, the butt dials, all of that. I mean, you could go on and on. So,
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And that's the thing, my mom would ask me about this case and she would know nothing about it. And it's like, I would just explain to her, well, these are the weird things that the witnesses did. And it doesn't mean and she's like, oh, that is weird. And she is not a
you
conspiracy theorist. My mom, she's not a crime person. She's like, I just don't get
know,
what, yeah, like it's not.
it's a common sense thing. I mean,
Right.
the other
Right.
thing, this was another mistake by Brennan, one of many that he made in this case, but portraying, for example, Jennifer McCabe as just the most pious, law abiding, truth, justice, the American way and soccer mom, that works if it's entirely true. So, it's one thing to say how cooperative she was when the police came, she wanted to talk to them. And by the way, that makes perfect sense. But, when the FBI comes and they're ostensibly doing the same thing, they're trying to, find out what, if anything, happened in this investigation and whether John O'Keefe was killed by whomever. And your answer is to lie about your identity. Now, we all know the FBI knew right away she was lying about that. They knew who she was.
Right.
They knew it wasn't Nicole standing outside her own house. And then she, says, I didn't know who you were. And then she lies about the number of phone calls that she makes. And then, her husband convinces her to tell the truth because he knows it's a crime to lie to the FBI. So you eventually tell him the truth, but then you terminate the interview that, again, these guys just want to know what happened within 10 minutes. It's her right to terminate the interview, but for the prosecutor to sell her as a forthright witness to all law enforcement, it's just not accurate.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, I thought about this too. It could have been something as simple as they were doing drugs, right? They were snorting some drugs on the table. They were letting all these underage kids drink. They were, and again, I'm not trying to spread rumors. I'm just thinking, speculation wise, because, I've covered other cases where someone looks super guilty on a 911 call. It doesn't mean they necessarily did it. I think they're just hiding some sort of illegal activity that they could be caught in. But I don't know, we don't know the answers to that. So
you don't know. The problem with those people in this case is their story from a macro sense is we were in the house and don't know anything. And then our friend who, we were talking to outside just turned up dead. So and he's our friend. They literally have nothing to hide. They should be bending over backwards and screaming out loud to any law enforcement, what can I do to help? Okay. And again, you go into the messages, you go into lying to the FBI, you go into, in the case of Kerry Roberts, lying to the grand jury, all these other things. That's not consistent with anything that they want to put out there in terms of just being concerned. Again, it doesn't mean they're responsible, but to a reasonable
Yeah.
person, does it suggest they might know more than they're saying? Does it lead a reasonable person to believe they're hiding something? Probably.
Something. Yeah, and I don't look, do you think they will be filing their own civil suits, the Alberts and the McCabe's?
I don't know. I mean, I don't, look, I think
Yeah.
they've made a lot of foolish public statements. I think they've had terrible PR advice. I think they haven't handled it all well, but people
Mhm.
will advise them, they'll do what they want. But when you file, I mean, if you're talking about like filing defamation claims,
Yes.
um, you know, obviously that opens up a whole can of worms. And if you don't have clean hands, it normally doesn't make sense to do that. Discovery can be a nasty thing. Truth is always a defense. You're putting the issue of what happened into play.
Mhm.
There's
Mhm.
all kinds of issues, and you just if you have any skeletons in your closet, you don't want to do that. And if you don't think you're going to win, you can make yourself look worse. So are they going to do it?
Right.
I don't know. I doubt it, but if they have lawyers who on their behalf believe that that's the right move, then they'll do it. It's up to them.
Yeah, and just my last question for you, I won't keep you. I'm curious about the grand jury leak. I see all of these Twitter lawyers, not I'm
Yeah.
being facetious, Twitter. They're not actually lawyers, but they're like, more indictments are coming and blah blah blah. What is your take on all of this?
So my take on that is what I've said online and laughing about,
Mhm.
the Taylor Law School and that sort of thing.
Yes.
Anybody who does this for a living in a legal sense, based upon all the stuff that was
Yeah.
put out there, would have been able to tell you right away that this doesn't feel like much. Okay. The way
Right.
the feds in this case work, they reach out to her, she agrees to be prosecuted by an information and is going to immediately plead guilty with a conditional promise of time served pending judicial approval, which is every
Yeah.
federal case the judge has to bless a guilty plea. So when you see that
Mhm.
again tells any experienced lawyer, if they're essentially saying we want to give you time served out of the gate,
Yeah.
okay, and we're
Yeah.
going to publicly say that, it tells any lawyer there's no cooperation here, and there's no
Yeah.
interest in that, and there's no there because in a federal case, if you're going to cooperate, you don't announce it and you don't agree to a sentence until it's over. And if you
Right.
get
Right.
promised one, it's very conditional on providing substantial assistance, a 5K1 letter that they call it. And
Mm.
it's kept quiet. You don't publicly release documents upon an arraignment saying we're going to give her time served and get out of there. And she
Right.
goes to court yesterday, and what happens? It's exactly as you thought. She foolishly leaked stuff that she shouldn't have done to a friend. Her friend put it online, and
Mhm.
she, for all intents and purposes, is going to get a slap on the wrist. I mean, I think from what I read, the judge said, "I'm going to think about it." Look at the
Yeah.
pre-sentence report. That's normal. I mean, there's a
Right.
pre-sentence report. You want to make sure you know who the defendant is. You want to make sure everybody agrees on the federal sentencing guidelines, all that kind of stuff, all that. And then she gets what she gets. But I think it was made pretty clear there's no there other than a grand juror was announcing information about an investigation on an indictment that had not yet been unsealed. That offends the U.S. attorney, and rightfully so. You
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
targets of a sealed indictment being told on Twitter that they've been indicted.
Of course.
And so they looked into it to make sure there wasn't a larger problem. And yeah, they looked at cell phones and that, and apparently determined that the grand juror told her friend about other cases as well,
Yeah.
including, by all published accounts, a little bit about the Norfolk County, Karen Reed, John O'Keefe investigation. But
Yeah.
that's what it is. There's no other targets here. And the reality is, if somebody shares information, if the
Yeah.
person who receives the information is not guilty of a crime, I mean, if I'm on a grand jury and I'm committing a crime and I say, "Hey, Lauren, guess what I heard?" And they're not going to arrest you. That's
Right.
how
Right.
America works.
Yeah.
Unless,
Yeah.
unless you talk to me in advance and said, "Hey, I heard you're on a grand jury. Is there any way you can like?" So I think the Twitter
Yeah.
law school is a very dangerous place to go.
I know. It's crazy. And I feel like every time I sign on, it's with this these cases in particular, of course. I mean, the vitriol is worse than I've ever seen in my life. Everybody claiming that so and so is going to get arrested, this person's going to get indicted. Everybody's after the juror. I
And
don't
it's
even.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The funny thing is, it's the same 15 or 20 people who I mean, it's kind of sad actually. They live on Twitter. I mean, their whole life appears to be agitating and needling and arguing with people they don't know. I mean, like classic keyboard warriors who just have nothing better to do. It's very unhealthy.
Well, I guess I wonder when when it comes down to it. At first, everybody who maybe felt this way really said they were doing this on behalf of John O'Keefe, justice for John O'Keefe. I just wonder if that's gotten lost in all of the hatred. And I would
Totally.
imagine, yeah,
I think
like,
there are factions on Twitter. People want to be right and wrong. And I
yeah,
think also, and again, I don't want to get too much more into Aiden, but this is really
yeah,
pathetic. A lot of the people who they're not even from Massachusetts, they don't know
right.
John O'Keefe, and I mean, nobody supports what happened to John O'Keefe. A good man
No.
lost his life. Anybody would
Huh.
feel sympathy to him and his family. But a lot of the people who are the most rabid haters, or believe that Karen Reed is guilty, and believe that, as I joke elsewhere, she causes cancer and global warming and all the other problems in the world. They didn't
Yeah.
start out that way. They took that position because Aiden took the other position, and some of
Mhm.
these people you can actually see pictures of online holding signs being pro Karen Reed, and then when they found out, or they had problems with a
Oh,
journalist, switch sides. I mean, and that's not a serious person. Those are
yeah,
not serious
yeah.
people. And they
Wow.
dig in, and everybody's entitled to their legitimate opinion. But if you're
Right.
basing it on, online feuds and nonsense, you're just not a serious person.
No, and that is so true. And I just can't, oh my gosh. When I first jumped on to cover this, I mean, this is just like, whatever, I guess gossip, but I could not believe. And I came in because a friend of mine, I told you I'm from New Hampshire, a friend of mine from high school texted me and he was like, dude, I can't believe you're not covering this. You cover all these cases. What's going on? So I started covering it. And of course, I reached out to Turtle Boy. I wanted to talk to him. He just happened to be in jail during that time. And I know, isn't that crazy? He did his 60 days. And I had an interview with him right after. And I was not ready for the attacks on me and my
Oh
character.
God,
I
how
was so
dare you?
shocked, Mark. I was like, wait, me? I was like, what did I do? I was so confused. I was like, what the hell did I do?
It's
um, yeah,
it's I mean, look, I mean, I know you're in New York, and I obviously deal with New York, and New York gets, by its very nature, the most high profile cases, generally pound for pound, a
yeah,
lot of craziness, been involved in a lot of just really emotional, nasty, factionized, if you will, cases, whether they
yeah.
be murder cases or anything else. And I've never seen any type of behavior and any kind of just childlike online silliness,
Hmm.
attacking people the way,
Yep.
their physical appearance, their family
Yeah,
relations, you name it,
yeah,
for the temerity of having an opinion, or covering a case from a perspective that people, many of whom tend to be anonymous, or
yes, yes.
live,
That's
live
the
on,
word. That's
sit
the
on a
word.
couch, somewhere across the country, and don't know anything about anything, or they, attend the Twitter law school. And I mean, if nothing else, what I've seen with the relationships of people and the treatment
Yeah.
of people because of having an opinion about one particular, admittedly interesting Massachusetts criminal case is insane.
No, I mean, Mark, I don't know if you see like my coverage of this, but I I have always been on the I've aired that I didn't think she hit him, but
Mhm.
I was always so respectful, or so I thought. I never implicated anyone. I was just like, I'm not so sure based on XYZ, but I was honest about it. I was like, this is how I'm covering it. I find I'm so respectful. I don't troll anyone. I could not believe, I mean, this is just, again, this is nor here nor there, but like people were, someone took a picture of me from the internet when I maybe weighed like 15 pounds more than I weigh now, with a picture of me now. And they're like, look at this grifter who edits all her. And I was like, I was so shocked. I was like, I don't understand what I did. I didn't do
It's
anything. I like,
grifting became the word of the year, you know.
oh, I hate that word, dude. I hate that word. Oh my God.
Grifter and, you know, from the time of the first trial, grifter and white claw became like the most, you know,
Yeah.
common words. But yeah, I know you've seen it about a lot of people, and it's fascinating because so many of these agitators are just so profoundly stupid and just, I guess I would say, morally inconsistent. So, you know, for
Yep.
example, you know, they go to the lawyers, and the lawyers, you know, I mean, I learned real quick that if you represent
Yeah.
a client they don't like, you become Satan by default. So
Yes.
if they hate someone like, you know, Aiden Carney, I'm Satan for representing him. And, they would talk
Yeah.
about Alan Jackson represented Harvey Weinstein, who
Yeah.
people have strong feelings about, so he becomes Satan. But then, and again, you never blame the lawyer for the client, but then you get into the concept of Hank Brennan becomes a saint. Okay. Hank Brennan represented Whitey Bulger.
That was so weird to me too.
Now,
I was like, come on,
as
guys,
much
come
as I
on.
don't appreciate Hank Brennan, and I don't fault
Yeah.
him at all for having a high profile case, an important case,
No.
and representing a client who just turns out to be a sadistic, murdering gangster. But these people who are criticizing me for representing a journalist they don't like, or Alan Jackson for representing people they don't like, had no problem with a
Zero.
prosecutor representing, the worst of the worst. And again, it's just an example to show how silly and how
Yes.
stupid all of this is.
Yes. Okay. And so Mark, I always make sure to try not to be a hypocrite. So when I comment things about Karen's case and how I don't think this or that, then I'm talking about, let's say, Koberger, which is completely different, completely separate. I always just try to make sure that I'm like, look, everybody deserves a fair trial. Everyone deserves their constitutional rights, regardless if you are an evil piece of shit that doesn't deserve, or if I think that. But man, the hypocrisy kills me. I mean, when I interviewed Terry Dunmuir and I got like early access to that doc, right? Listen, Mark, I was very honest about how I felt about what Karen said in that doc, and I was confused about why Alan Jackson and Yannetti would let her say some of that stuff. I said that out loud. I mean, some of the people that really thought she was guilty were having watch parties of my interview, and I'm like, okay, that's all right. But the watch parties were like, look at her earrings, look at her shirt, look how like. And I mean, again, I was like, you can't win. I don't understand. These are adults. This is adults. Yeah. Yep.
It,
So
this, look, I'm ironically, I mean, look, I'm just a lawyer who does this for a living. So I'm not a true crime person. I kind of pick and
no.
choose what I'm interested in. So I haven't been around for a lot of these other things, but the only thing that people compared this for me was to the Depp and Heard thing, where they said online, and I followed some of that. I gave some
Yeah.
commentary basically about it, but that's the only thing that I ever saw, or from what I didn't see, was told was
Mhm.
even remotely close to just the online craziness. But
Yep.
again, for the Karen Reed stuff, most of
Hmm.
the people tend to be anonymous. They tend to hide who they are, and it really is a small faction of people who tend to always have the same talking points, use the same verbiage, and use the same Twitter law school education. So it's
Yeah.
bizarre. It really
No,
is.
and I always say, I'm always like, I love all opinions because I don't think it's fun when everyone agrees. But when it comes to this, it's like nobody can be civil and nobody can be like, well, okay, I hear you, but it's all like, you blah blah blah. Yeah. So it's just like not even, it's so scary. And it's just, I don't know. I've got my children to worry about. I got enough. I thought one of them had pink eye this morning, already went to urgent care before 9 a.m. I mean, I just don't have time for this shit. Like,
I know.
so it's, yeah, you know how it is. It's like, what is this? How can we not, how can we not voice our opinion in a mature and respectful way? Or how can we, and still get this crazy vitriol?
Yeah, no, I mean, the closest thing I ever saw to it, at least personally, was how many years ago? I don't know, maybe 8 years ago, represented a NYPD detective who was accused of raping a girl that he arrested. Okay. And when I say rape, he was accused of violently, essentially attacking a woman he arrested in a Brooklyn park. And this became a
Oh, wow.
huge, huge case.
Wow.
They were called the rape cops, him and his partner. They were getting all kinds of threats, and it was horrible. I mean, it sounded terrible. And the girl was lying completely, other than the fact that
Oh,
they were guilty of accepting a bribe. They engaged
okay.
in activity they absolutely should not have engaged in, to be clear. And the law changed in New York as a result of this case. They made it where if someone is in custody, you literally, as a matter of law, cannot consent to any sexual activity, which is fine. But that
Yeah.
was not
Yeah.
the law at the time. So these guys got indicted for violently, allegedly raping this teenager, and it was a complete lie. And we vigorously defended these guys,
Wow.
and the evidence was clear that, I mean, she lied about 99% of this, and I won't bore you with the details, but and
It's not boring. Is this Manhattan Criminal Court? This
this
is
was in
Center
Brooklyn.
Street? Brooklyn.
This was
Oh, okay. Kings.
Yeah, this
Okay.
was in
Yeah,
Brooklyn,
Kings County.
I think this probably 2017. I mean,
Oh,
if you Google it, it's all out there.
yeah.
But the point is, that's the closest I experience, and I've had other, very emotional, crazy cases, but that was the closest I had ever experienced to the lunacy that you see with,
Mhm.
with this. And and back
Yeah.
then, you'd get some phone calls, people leave you messages, and I've gotten some of those even with this, that tell you,
Sure.
what to do to yourself and where to go and all of
Yep.
that. And
Yep.
sometimes you save them for posterity and whatnot. But you know,
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
but this this is just literally having an opinion that a woman who was accused of killing a police officer, in my view, is not guilty because the evidence against her stinks. And it's so bad that I think she's probably actually innocent, that they
Yeah.
literally, I think the defense, for all intents and purposes, established that there was no contact. But
Mhm.
whether people agree or disagree about that, for the temerity of having that opinion
Yeah.
and then doubling down by representing, that guy, it
Yeah.
becomes the vitriol is.
Yeah, it makes you a bad person somehow. And I also think this case, the Karen Reed John O'Keefe case is super interesting because, you have the Fox News standpoint, let's say, with Judge Janine, where she, and listen, I I talked, so I did this Fox Nation doc that she hosted. And I saw her at this Fashion Week event, and I grabbed her and I was like, "Hi." And I like expected her to know me or something, and she's like, who the hell are you?" Like, we didn't actually shoot at the same time. I was
Yeah,
such an embarrassment. I was such an idiot. But, I said, "I would love to speak with you about your views on this case because I've got some pushback for you. I've got the other side." And she was like, "Oh, like I didn't really watch the first trial. It's kind of just like Occam's razor for her," which
yeah,
she fully admitted. She is fully back the blue no matter what. And I am back the blue, by the
yeah.
way. I am back the blue. And because I live in New York City, I'm very appreciative for the police officers. But it was just so funny, Mark, because she was like, "No, I didn't pay attention." Like, but she's like, "She obviously did it." I was like, "Oh,
mean, I know when she did her show, a lot of people were freaking out. And so I
yeah,
met her years ago. I went on her show maybe 12 years ago. Client who an ex-Marine, although no Marines are considered ex-Marines. He brought a gun accidentally into the Empire State Building, and it was a whole to-do in New York years ago. And we went on her show, and she was great. She was very pro guys getting screwed. But also, you're covering shows on TV. You're generally going to be pro law enforcement. Certainly, Fox News is going to be pro, which is fine. And you have a dead police officer. It is kind of like Occam's razor. It just, if she must have done it. But people were freaking out that she was doing this show and generally taking the view that she probably did it. And I just remember saying, it's one person with an opinion. I mean, the principle has to apply for both sides. You can't just because you're pro Karen Reed. She obviously she has a large platform, and I would say it to her face. I mean, with all respect, you're wrong on this one. And, you haven't seen, but the fact that, she had her view and had a public platform with it, so what? I mean, it doesn't.
No, it's true. And she, that the thing is also like people were boycotting the documentary. And I was like, nobody should boycott it because she just narrates it. That docuseries actually was super down the middle. They did that on purpose. I actually showed up to the shoot, Mark, and I just brought a couple tops and I had this melon colored top on, and the producer was like, yo, that looks too pink. You can't wear that because, and I wasn't even thinking, I was just like, oh, but they did it for my benefit. Like they were just like, you are going to get, and I was like, oh shoot, sorry. So I wore black instead. Yeah.
There was one day during Karen's trial, I think it was the first trial. I mean, it all blends.
Yeah.
There is a really, really good reporter in Massachusetts named Ted
Daniel. Yeah.
And one day he made the mistake of he it's a summer trial. He wore a pink shirt. And again,
pink tie, I think, right?
Whatever it was. And the Twitter mob of this 15 or 20 people just became outraged. And I think I could be wrong, but even everybody's favorite convoluted, warped mind ex-FBI agent with a platform on Twitter was, she who need not be named, screaming, yelling. I believe if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think she was saying, oh my God, the bias of this. And I'm just like,
oh, wow.
It's pink shirt day. It's next in line in the closet. It's summer. It's really not that big a deal.
Yep. And that's what's so funny. This producer was saving me from that basically. And I was like, oh, wow. I didn't even realize what I was doing. Pink looks good on camera. I don't know, whatever. So yeah, that whole thing was interesting, but it just is funny because, we can't expect these people and talking heads to know some of these cases as well as we do. So they can have their opinion without looking, super, super deep and whatnot. But I just thought that was so funny that Judge Janine was like, oh no, she's like, I didn't actually follow it. This is just what I think. So I'm like, okay, that's fair. But
I mean, but that's also, like what I call flyby media. I mean, obviously they're going to just do a quick interview and move on. I mean, I went on Fox News. I mean, I've been on there several times, but during the trial for a piece with, Dana Perino and Bill
Hammer,
and they have their thing, and they called James O'Keefe by accident. James O'Keefe, the conservative,
from Veritas, Project Veritas,
and it was obvious that there was just not a big deal. And again, people watching a 7-minute hit on national TV. Everybody knows what's going on, but a lot of people, I mean, they got so upset, and it was a measure of disrespect. And it was like, no, they're doing a small piece. They don't cover this on a daily basis. It's for a casual audience as one segment, not people who study this, watch trials. And I mean, I guess the bottom line is everybody could just take a deep breath and chill with all of this.
I know we can all have opinions and we can all want justice for John O'Keefe without thinking that Karen is guilty. A jury found her not guilty. I respect that decision because that's the way I was leaning initially. But again, we can all still want justice for John. We can still feel horrible for his family and what his parents have endured. I don't, and his niece and nephew, God, I think about them all the time. But yeah, I don't think that makes me a bad person by thinking that Karen didn't do it and wasn't responsible for this. So, but yeah, Mark, you are so fun. I have said we need to get together in the city. We need to do something. It will be, okay. I'm going to hit you up then. I'm going to bother you.
As they say, do it.
Do it. Yeah, do it. All right. Well, Mark, you're amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate your insight, Law Daddy. Okay.
All right. Take care.
I'm going to call you that from now on. No, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye. He was so fun. And look at just in time. Sidebar, I love you so much, Sean G. Guys, follow Sean G right now if you don't. Sean's amazing. Podcast with Soul. I should bring you on, Sean. If you're around, send me a text right now. You can come on because we're going to go over the Diddy docket right now. But wow, I love Mark Bederow. I want to hang out with him all the time. I mean, that was crazy. He's like such a. So I told you guys, I ran into him at News Nation. I've never actually had a discussion or conversation with him before, but that was so fun. And he was like, just so casual and normal. I love it. Not that I thought he wouldn't be normal, but sometimes lawyers are, they speak legalese and I don't quite understand a lot of it. So, yes, you are the best, Sean. Okay, guys. So let's switch gears. Let's switch from Boston to New York right now. Diddy was denied bail again. Sean, yeah. So anyway, Sean, text me if you're around and you want to hop on. Let's go over this. All right. So I was a bit shocked the other day, or maybe I wasn't. I don't know. When I was checking the docket and I saw a letter from Gina encouraging the release of Diddy. And I think maybe I was surprised because Gina was victim number 3. She was supposed to testify. And when we were in court at the start of the trial, Gina's name was brought up. And it was interesting because the government had kind of said it. And Sean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is sort of what went down. The government kept bringing up, Gina, she's not answering. Her lawyers aren't responding to our phone calls. And then, oh, bye, Sal. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. So, the government's like, yeah, she's not responding to our phone calls. We don't know what's going on. And then the defense, it was Agnifilo that kind of said, yeah, no, Gina's not testifying. He was like very adamant, like he knew the answer. And it was the government's witness, Gina. And they were like, we don't know. And then all of a sudden the defense is like, nope, she's not. So I was like, oh, okay. So yeah, so Gina is probably not a government witness after all. They probably hit her up like they did Cassie and Jane. And Gina was like, no thanks. So yeah. So seeing that letter from Gina, I was like, oh, okay, now it all makes sense. Hold on, let me send Sean a link just in case. I don't want to pressure him because I feel like I always bother him. But let me see. Sean. Okay, I'm gonna pull up the motion in just a second. If you want to say hi, here you go. Okay, no pressure. Oh, Sherry, thank you so much. That is so nice. You're so nice. Yes, and Dizzy, I just texted him. Bring on Unk. I love it. I love it so much. Bring on Unk. Okay, where is this motion? Okay, here we go. So, first I'm going to bring up just quickly. I want to share with you the defense's motion that paired with this letter. Is this it? Yes, Agnifilo. Okay. Make this. All right, there we go. So, morning, Daphne. Good to see you. So I thought this was interesting the other day because they depicted as well the horrific conditions, I guess, at MDC, which they hadn't really brought up before. And I don't know if that was necessarily the best move, I guess. Bringing up the poor conditions at MDC, because I don't know if the judge is going to be like, yeah, and like, I don't, you know what I mean? He's going to be like, and what's your point? It's jail. What do you think? So let me see. Oh, wait, I need to also get emojis. Yes, Dizzy, thank you so much. You made me these emojis and I need to upload these. I think I know how to do it. I'm so stupid with some of that stuff, but I will, so you guys can use the emojis. Okay, so let me get to that section. So let's see. He's not a flight risk, all this stuff. Did I skip over it? I must have skipped over it. Is it before or after? I totally missed it. Oh, here it is. Yeah, okay. Here it is. So this is where they say, let me see. Over here, they talk about how additionally, just 2 Fridays ago, an inmate in the floor above Combs was stabbed. And they're talking about how basically the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York announced criminal charges against 25 defendants in 12 separate cases relating to violence and contraband smuggling at the MDC, all of which occurred recently between April 2024 and the present. And they're talking about how even a former correctional officer smuggled contraband into the facility back in January. And then, there was an inmate in there for smuggling ceramic scalpels into the facility. And then there was an MS-13 gang member that tried to smuggle a large contraband package, including 18 cell phones and weed, to other MS-13 gang members that are also incarcerated at MDC. And they're saying that there was a stabbing on the floor above him and that he just does not belong there because he has not been convicted of any type of, violent crimes here. That's what they're saying. And then they also said, they made this point. Let me go back to it. It's just easier for me to read on my desktop. They also said the section about Gina, they're talking about how he's sober now and how it says the government should not be able to support its argument with untested accusations as they did at the pretrial bail hearings. For example, it was argued that Combs was, quote, violent towards Virginia Gina Hun, with whom the defendant was in a relationship at the same time as Ms. Ventura. Ms. Hun has written a letter of support in support of Combs's motion for bond, which is attached as Exhibit A. So let me get to that. I mean, you guys, I can go over that. You guys really have seen it. Let me see. Was it August? Yeah, I think it was August 1st. No, it wasn't August 1st. Where was it? Gina. No, that was in motion for a new trial. Why am I like so? Oh, here it is. Letter of support. Okay. So, yeah, a lot of people thought maybe Gina did not write this letter. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure she had help. There's been a lot of speculation about Gina, about why she wrote the letter. Why would she do this? Look, I don't know. I really don't know, but she did. She made her own choice, just like she made the choice previously to go on the Tasha K show and talk about her relationship. She's made this choice now. She's a grown-up, so she can do what she wants. So I don't, you know what I mean? I'm kind of like, I'm not going to speculate on anything. Obviously when I posted this letter on my Twitter, people went crazy. They were like, she was paid off. She's going for that #1 spot, like, that blah, blah, blah. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I have no idea, but she wrote it and here we are. So again, grown adults, grown ass decisions. I'm not going to speculate, But I don't know if I was expecting the judge to come back so quickly, denying his bail once again. And I mean, this, obviously, I think, what is this, like the fourth or fifth time, starting from back when he got arrested in September of 2024. I feel like, yeah, this is a message, I think, that is being sent here. And actually, I think it was Cheryl McCollum who might have posted that on her Twitter. If you don't follow Cheryl, you should, or she posted it somewhere. She said the judge is trying to send a message. And I was like, I totally agree. However, I think some people are like, well, wait a minute. What is he going to be like during sentencing? I actually think that this might be good for Diddy with sentencing. This is where my head is going, where I think Subramanian needs to show some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? He needs to hold his ground here in his initial decision to not grant Diddy bail after he was acquitted on the most serious charges. He already said, no, I'm not gonna release you right now until sentencing. I don't think at this point, if he were to say, oh, you know what? Actually, you're right. It's been a month. He deserves to get out. I think that would look bad on the judge, right? It just wouldn't, even though I said those defense motions were very well written. And even Terry Austin last week, a lawyer, legal analyst, she kind of said the same thing. She's like, yeah, I mean, in most cases, they shouldn't be holding him in jail on these charges alone, but they are. So, how would it look if the judge went back, all of a sudden is like, never mind. But, let me pull up his motion yesterday. Actually, I need to refresh this. That's what's going on here. I didn't refresh it because he says this in no way will affect sentencing. Let me see here. Okay. So here it is. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Yeah, next month he'll be in there for a year. You're right, September. That is so crazy. So that's why I'm thinking maybe this is going to help him when it comes to sentencing. So essentially, the judge just did not agree that these were exceptional factors at all. Oh wait, this is the government letter. Why am I? Where is it? Is this the letter? Where did I not? Oh, here it is. Okay. So the judge still thinks that he is a danger, that he is still a flight risk. And he said Combs fails to meet his burden by clear and convincing evidence for the reasons set forth on the record at the July 2nd, 2025 hearing. So that's kind of where I was sort of saying, like, nothing really has changed since then. So, except for the fact that the defense has pulled together more case law that I guess could make another judge or maybe somebody else realize, like, okay, yeah, this definitely doesn't normally happen. However, I think that the judge has cited this before as well. This is not your typical case here. So yeah, if he were to just say, oh, you're right, he can leave now, nothing's changed, but he can leave. Yeah, maybe that wouldn't look so great. But he does say, where is it? He did say somewhere that, yeah, this will not affect his sentencing, which I think is promising, of course. Let me see. Oh, this part I was like, Combs also points to squalor and danger at the MDC, conditions that he says have been aggravated by the federal government's aggressive budget cuts this year. The public outcry concerning these conditions has come from all corners. But as Combs acknowledges, MDC staff has been able to keep him safe and attend to his needs, even during an incident of threatened violence from an inmate. In the U.S. versus Chavez, the court found that the conditions at MDC rose to the level of exceptional reasons, warranting release where it was undisputed that the defendant posed no risk of flight or danger, where unique circumstances counseled release, including the defendant's advanced age and serious medical conditions, which require care that the MDC may not be able to provide. And those facts are not presented here. And nothing in Chavez suggests that the exceptional release or exceptional reasons warrant release for every person awaiting sentencing in the MDC. Rather, MDC is a factor, admittedly a serious one to consider, along with others, in making that determination. So, yeah, bail is denied for those reasons. Yeah, it's like I just don't know what to make of all this. Honestly, I really don't. And at this point, I am like, I don't know what's going to happen during sentencing. But if I had to guess, this is my speculation. I think that sentencing is going to go in Diddy's favor because he has kept him in the MDC for almost a year now. As somebody pointed out, it will be a year. I don't see him getting what the government wanted. The max, I think, was 5 years or something like that, or 52 months. I don't see that happening. But let me know if you guys think otherwise, because I mean, I've seen that people have said, yeah, just because the judge is putting his foot down, he doesn't want him to get out anytime soon. And I just don't know if I agree with that. I think he just can't go back on what he already said. And I think that this is going to help Diddy's initial sentencing. So that's me. But let me know what you guys think about that. And somebody else, they said something in the chat about something they sent me. Let me check. I didn't get an email, but I was going through yesterday. I was going through some of the dockets with the civil suits. So I think there was some kind of motion with the Clayton Howard civil suit about sealing some documents because, here's a link. There you guys go. Sealing some documents because they had to do with his medical history, because he is claiming that he got herpes and had STDs. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, you already told us, so why do you need to seal these? I'm a little confused. And then at the end of July, there was another civil suit from another escort, so to speak, against Diddy. And, you know, I'm confused a bit at some, and let me just preface with, I have not read this entire civil suit by this new escort. His name is Michael something. Michael, where was it? What's his name? I'm trying to find it. Sorry. Male escort. Now I can't find his name. Whatever. I guess I got a little confused because I was like, well, I don't know. This was your job. You were willing, you were paid for your services, whatever those services were. Obviously, if it's true and this person got an STD, that's not good. But if this is true, it's strange, I guess. I'm just like, I'm having a hard time with some of these. But again, I need to fully read through the newest one. What the hell? No, Gary, it's okay. I'm here and you're here. Don't worry. You're not super late. Yeah, but look, I mean, you said, didn't Diddy's lawyers say that he admits to the violence and that there was DV in his relationships? If you want to blame anyone, blame his defense team. You could totally go that route, but you could also say his defense team did this to save him from literally life in prison. So what would, right, when it comes down to it, what would you rather? 2 years or life? So I still think his defense did the right thing. Totally think his defense. Yeah, I stand by all of that 100% because I think that they had to do that. They had to, or else, yeah, he could have potentially done a lot more time. So yeah, I need to go through the other civil suit in detail because they are they are a little confusing, the escorts coming forward and saying that certain things happened and this and that. And yeah, it's, I don't know about you guys, or if any of you guys have actually fully read that one. You know what? I could have sworn I had it open. Maybe I didn't. Let me see. Nope, that's the Fat Joe. Oh, I can go over that really quick too. I did a video last week, and I'm kind of embarrassed at something I said. No, it's not the Doe suit. Dizzy, he doesn't go by Doe. It's like Michael. It's driving me crazy. Michael, why? Is his name not Michael? Did I just mess this up? I have to look this up because now it's really going to bother me. I'm just going to go to the docket and see what I missed here. I'm just going to type in Combs because I swear this lawsuit maybe is not getting as much attention, but I'll pull it up because he's also demanding a jury trial. And he has here it is. I can't even say this guy's name. I'll share this with you guys. All right. Did you guys know about this one, or did you hear about this civil suit? It's not Clayton. It's this guy. Let me know if you can see it. I'll put the docket link in the chat too. Let's see. Right, Casey, totally. Life in prison, all your assets seized, or 2 to 5 years, and you get to keep your assets. Right. I would also choose the latter. Yeah. So this was last updated, this docket, on August 4th. It was filed July 24th. So there's really not much here. So I have to buy some of this stuff, but this is the main document. Let me see. Demand for jury trial. Michael Wako, whatever. Sorry, excuse me. He's suing Diddy, Wynn Resorts, Northwood Investors LLC, Colorado Limited Company, John Doe Associates, and Roe entities. So he, from what I did read in this lawsuit, he was with Diddy a lot in Las Vegas at the Wynn, which is why he cites them in the lawsuit. Which, listen, I mean, this is reaching, I feel like, just a bit, because some of these activities, whatever. I'm going to quickly, actually, I'm going to download this and let me throw this into Grok to see what Grok says. That is sometimes, yeah, that's my way of, that's my own law degree here. Okay. Just kidding. All right. I will say, please break this down in lay terms. All right. So while that's happening, yeah, did any of you guys see this lawsuit? Just curious, because I was just going through the docket, just trying to get an update on some of the civil suits, and this one popped up, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's another escort. Thanks, Dizzy, posting all my links. Gosh, I just want to go back and talk to Bederow. I love him. He's so great. All right, I'll stop fangirling. Okay, complaint for damages, sexual battery, civil conspiracy, and violation for the Trafficking Victims Protection Act. And by the way, he cites things from the trial. So this is, in my opinion, this is why he adds like the violation of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, because he knows Diddy was convicted on that. So let me see. Let's see if Grok has some updates. Okay, what's the lawsuit about? All right. Michael E., let's call him that, a sex worker, claims that in 2018, he was hired by Sean Diddy Combs for what he thought was consensual sex work with adult women. However, he alleges that the situation was far more disturbing than he was led to believe. According to the lawsuit, Combs orchestrated sexual encounters where women were coerced, forced, or manipulated into participating. And Michael was unknowingly drugged and recorded during these encounters. The hotels are accused of helping Combs cover up these illegal activities, and he is suing for $500,000 for the emotional and psychological harm he suffered. Okay, so I mean, right off the bat, he is citing force, fraud, and coercion, which is what Diddy was acquitted of, right? I mean, when it comes to trafficking. So that's interesting. I mean, yeah, that's really kind of what I'm thinking, Daphne. But again, I hate saying that sometimes because I wasn't there. I don't exactly know all of the details, but it's like, wait, what? I mean, yeah, weird. Oh my gosh, Sheila, that's so funny. I don't really think that. I'm sorry if I am the most famous person. I have 93 people watching this stream. I don't think I'm famous, but I love you so much. You're so funny. But okay, so let's go back to this because again, I'm shocked. So it says he met Combs in 2018. He was hired to perform sexual acts with women, including Cassie and another unnamed woman referred to as Jane Doe, believing it was consensual work. He later learned that the women were coerced or trafficked, meaning I wonder how that works if he was acquitted on trafficking them, how this guy can still put that in his civil suit saying that this happened, maybe because the women stand by it. I don't know. Combs reportedly provided body oil for him to use during the encounters, which he believes was laced with drugs like GHB. Okay. All right. Let's stop for a second here because again, this is what we kind of thought was going to come out during the trial, and it didn't. That the baby oil was laced with GHB. Now, if that was a thing, because we are talking about 2018 here, and that is when this escort is alleging that this happened, wouldn't the feds be privy to this? Wouldn't the government have, made sure to point this out to get proof of this? I mean, what? This is crazy. And also, sorry to say, we have assistant testimony saying that they went out, they bought baby oil, they brought it to the hotel, and that's not to say that let's, if I'm really going to stretch things here, that's not to say like Diddy didn't like do something to it. I just don't see where that would have fit in with all of this. That seems to be an allegation I do feel like we would have heard in court or during the trial, but that's just me. And Daphne, I know that civil suits, civil suits, there's way less of a burden to meet. So you can pretty much say whatever you want. I just don't think it's gonna help this guy's case when Diddy's civil attorneys come back and say, no, he was acquitted on this stuff. This never happened. And in court, people testified about drugs, but no drugs in the baby oil or in the Astroglide, nothing like that. And again, we heard from assistants and people that said they delivered it right to his door. I think that's a kind of a wild allegation after all is said and done, because again, that would be criminal and that would have come out in the trial, I think. So let's see. Go back to this. So what else does it say? Oh yeah, and he accuses the Wynn of covering it up. Where was I? Defendants, John Doe associates 1 through 10 are individuals whose identities are presently unknown, who assisted or conspired with Combs and or who participated in or enabled the wrongful acts alleged. So they're saying that, wow, they're not naming other defendants. I don't know about that. That's a little weird. Usually you name all the defendants. Dizzy, don't you agree? Am I crazy? Like, why would you? I get a plaintiff wanting to be John Doe, but defendants, okay. Defendants row entities 1 through 10 are entities whose identities are presently unknown, who assisted or conspired with Combs. Okay, got it. Let me go back to what I was seeing on. Okay, secret recordings. So here we go. the encounters were allegedly filmed without Michael's knowledge or consent, which he claims was illegal, especially since he was drugged and couldn't get proper consent. So obviously, we learned at the trial that he was recording these encounters. Some of them, maybe not all. We know that the ones with Jane, a lot of those were recorded because Jane had talked about how her and Diddy had like movie night, I guess. So they would watch these videos during movie night, but faces weren't necessarily shown. But yeah, I mean, I feel like maybe this guy probably learned that during the trial. Let me see if Las Vegas or if Nevada is a two-party consent state with recording. Nevada, two-party consent to record. It probably is. That's why he's saying it was. Oh, no. Nevada's a one-party consent state for recording. But I wonder if that's only with conversations. And I wonder if that applies in like a sexual nature. But Nevada is a one-party consent state to record. So if I wanted to, I could call someone in Nevada right now. I could record the conversation. I could play it all for you guys right here on the stream. And that would be perfectly legal because it's a one-party consent to record. So in Massachusetts, for example, it's two-party consent. So I would not be able to do that. That would be illegal, and I could get in trouble for that. So that's interesting. I wonder if it's the same for, I guess, recording videos. So, and then he's saying that he was drugged and he couldn't give proper consent. Now, what we have heard, guys, from these escorts, and I guess you can call them escorts, entertainers, whatever. When I interviewed the Punisher, he said, I was offered drugs. And they talked about this on the stand. And I think that, you know, there was an admission of some sorts that all of the escorts were offered drugs. They either decided to take them or they didn't. You know, we heard from Daniel Phillip that he would always say no to MDMA. And then the one time he said yes, he kind of went crazy. He talked about going to Times Square and giving all his money away to people when he was on these drugs. And then we heard from the Punisher that he was offered drugs pretty much every time, and he always said no. So again, I'm not saying that this happened to this guy, Michael, but if we're going to go with what the other entertainers said, I would say that they were offered drugs and they had a choice. Now, I wasn't there for Michael. Could have been different. I'm just throwing it out there that there is some corroboration when it comes to drugs being offered, men saying no thanks, and just moving on with the FO or the hotel night. So, hey, Derek. Hey, Afton. Good to see you guys. Let me see. The FOs were 3 people, no more than that. And it was consistent for years. But one escort said he didn't want to be filmed and Diddy didn't record him. So I think you meant crap on that lawsuit. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I mean, this, like I said, some of this stuff, I will say it's kind of easy to poke holes in it just from being in the courtroom for the actual criminal trial. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but again, I wasn't there. So, all right, let's go back. So the encounters took place at luxury hotels, the Palazzo, the Wynn in Las Vegas, and he accuses the hotel staff by helping Diddy by booking rooms under fake names like Mr. Star to hide his identity. Nope, I'm going to go ahead and say that's not helping. Not at all, because many celebrities, if not all of them, book hotels under fake names. Not a thing, in my opinion. So allowing Combs and his team access to private areas, I think that's just a celebrity perk. Escorting Michael, this entertainer, and others to and from rooms. How dare they escort him to a celebrity room that they don't want to make a thing about? Oh my goodness. Okay. Right now, not really convincing me. All right. Cleaning up evidence like drugs or oils after the encounters to cover up illegal activity. Well, we heard about this. We heard about the cleaning up of oil. I don't think that's illegal activity. Also, we saw that Diddy was fined for a lot of these spills and a lot of the damage he did to these rooms. So yeah, he was fined, and his team would do a lot of the cleanup before the hotel management would do the cleanup. And last I checked, it's the staff's job to clean the rooms. Now, I don't know what happens, like truly, like if I go to a hotel and I leave drugs on the counter or something, does the staff go to the management, and does management go to police? I don't know. I mean, how what's the amount of drugs? Like if they see a dime bag or if they see like a joint or something. I mean, are they going to go? I don't know. Are they going to go to management and go to the cops? I just don't know if that's necessarily their job. But guys, weigh in here, because I don't want to seem like I'm totally, smacking this lawsuit away. If I'm completely wrong, but this is my opinion here. And then it says ignoring obvious signs of wrongdoing. I don't know what that means at all. Yeah. He also claims one case. Then he cited the bribe, the intercontinental bribe. So he cited that, saying, he did pay this one hotel to suppress surveillance footage of him assaulting Cassie, showing a pattern of hotels helping Combs to hide his actions. Okay, that's fair, but you got to find someone at the Wynn that will testify and say, yup, I did this. You're right. Right? And then it says emotional and psychological harm. Okay. Michael says he didn't realize the full extent of the coercion and manipulation until Combs' federal trial in May and June of 2025, when Cassie and others testified. Since then, he suffered severe emotional distress, including humiliation, shame, anxiety, and trauma, which have affected his relationships and quality of life. He's also incurred mental health treatment costs. Okay. So he read the transcript from the trial, or he watched the news, and then he realized that he was I don't mean to laugh. I'm just confused, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about this one. I think it's interesting, and I think I need more information, I guess. Sorry, I should have changed the banner, by the way. I should have said, let me see. What is this? I guess this is the newest Diddy civil suit. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little confused by this one. How you drafted this right after the trial, because you were also an escort or entertainer. Again, Daphne, I'm kind of with you. I think he's reaching on some of this stuff. For me, it's the drugs in the baby oil. I need proof of this, because I have said this. I just think we all were expecting that to come out in the trial, and it didn't. So if this is the case here, why didn't we hear about it? Why did we not hear about it? I don't know. So yeah, that's super interesting. Me saying the Punisher. I know. I love the Punisher, though. I want to have him back on. Yeah, I don't see this civil suit. I'll say it right now. My prediction is this civil suit gets tossed. That's what I'm going to say right now. I want to see who he's using as an attorney. Jonathan D. Evans, and I don't know how to pronounce his name, Tata Salazar. And this is in California, and he is demanding a jury trial. He's also demanding his attorney's fees and costs, pre and post judgment interest, $500,000 is what he is demanding. Wow. And he's saying he is incurring mental health related expenses and mental anguish. Hotel defendants knowingly benefited from their involvement in this venture by receiving financial compensation from Combs. Now that's a heavy accusation right there. They're kind of saying that Diddy also paid off the win to hide some of this quote unquote criminal behavior. I mean, that's a little wild. That's a little wild. So yeah, I'm confused at this point. I don't know when the civil suits are going to stop. They've definitely slowed down. But this is the most recent, this entertainer. And I guess we'll see what happens. Again, I mentioned the docket was updated today. And let me see. It said response by court to notice of deficiencies. And right before that, it was notice to counsel, consent to proceed before a U.S. magistrate judge. Before that, it was notice to parties of court-directed ADR program. Yeah. So they're going to start, making a schedule soon. But I feel like this isn't going to go anywhere. Who knows, Sherry, if he's referring to an extra tip or what. You don't think it's going to be tossed. You think it's going to be Vegas OJ 2.0. I mean, that's interesting. With OJ, I just feel like as soon as he was acquitted, it's like it took how many years for him to turn into this freaking career criminal with the burglary and everything else. But I know you're talking about the wrongful death suit and everything like that. I mean, I don't know. I think some of the, the civil suits, they could have some points, but this one, I don't know. I'm not sure. And James, yes, he already got denied bail once again. You're curious as to how all the lawsuits factor into what the judge is thinking. If you mean the judge in the criminal case, 6, nothing. They're not, these aren't related. Like I don't, Subramanian doesn't see any of these civil lawsuits at all. But clearly the plaintiffs have been paying attention to the case, to the trial, and they are, I guess, having these realizations, which sure, that could happen. I'm sure that does happen where you kind of look back and you're like, oh man, this did happen to me. I knew something was off, maybe, So anyway, I also wanted to go over the fact that Ghislaine got moved to a new federal prison in Texas. They're calling it Club Fed. And this is the same prison that Elizabeth Holmes is in, and Jen Shaw, the housewife. And it's interesting because this federal prison in Texas generally does not take convicted sex offenders, but they took Ghislaine. Now, is she trying to pull some strings here? I obviously think yes. She is trying to do anything and everything to get things out of the government because they want her to talk. However, I don't think that she's going to get any type of immunity here, which is why she can't spill all the beans, because I think that she would be in danger of being prosecuted again, right? But I think what they're doing here is they're taking all the steps to make her more comfortable so she keeps talking. That is my opinion. Yes, and she is a bad lady. I've also spoken to some people off the record who have inside information about her that they couldn't come on and talk about it on the show, but they said, just trust me, Ghislaine is where she belongs. She doesn't deserve a pardon. And this Texas low security prison, by the way, I mean, it allows Elizabeth Holmes. I remember Elizabeth Holmes, she was seeing her kids. They were coming to visit her at this prison. And I mean, it looked like she was just hanging out at the park with her kids. Like it didn't look like, if she didn't have that beige prison uniform on, it just wouldn't have looked anything different than a mom at the park with her kids. It was crazy. She was just like rolling around on the grass with them. I mean, she even had jewelry on. I think they had like video footage or photographs of her like giving her husband a kiss. I'm kind of like, man, this doesn't look so bad. Clearly, prison is prison. I wouldn't want to be in prison. But if I had to pick one, it might be this one. It might be this one. So, yeah, I found that to be like, okay, she's definitely in a better environment because she had a lot to say about the Jacksonville prison she was at, about the rats, about there was, I don't know, she was very, very upset by this prison. And, the club fed, it seems so much better. It seems so much more lenient, but I do think that this is the very start of Ghislaine making demands here. So I think that she's not going to get a pardon. I don't. That's not happening, but I think she's going to try her best to get certain things out of the administration, out of the government. I don't know what you guys think. Oh, this is so funny. I would love to interview them. Oh my goodness. Interviewing Elizabeth Holmes and Ghislaine. Yeah, I would love that. Totally. What else, guys? What else? I may have missed, but how do you feel about Gina's letter to the court? Yeah, I did discuss that. I just said, look, she's a grown adult. She can do what she wants. I don't want to speculate anything here because I don't know. Just like she was a grown adult when she went on Tasha K's show and talked about her relationship, she clearly made the decision to not testify for the government. And it sounds like the government was under the impression that at one point she would testify. And I said, I remember sitting in court when the government seemed like very unsure as to where Gina was, what was going on. And then it was Mark Agnifilo that was like, no, she's not testifying. Like, she's definitely not. And I was like, oh, so then in my head for a split second, I was like, oh, is she going to be a witness for the defense instead? Did she flip that hard? We never actually got any other information about that. But then when this letter came out, I was kind of like, okay, this makes sense. But, I felt sort of like we were meant to think, like, where is Gina? Is she in hiding? When it looked like she's just out there living her best life. So, yeah, who knows? What else, guys, is going on? I want to be on here for like 10 more minutes at least. And I have my Nancy Botwin coffee. I got a mocha this morning. Let's see, James. You like my interview with the Punisher? Are you going to interview any more sex workers? I mean, I don't know. I guess I could try. I still wish I could find a juror. I still haven't given up on that. Sherry, there is no Wendy Williams update, by the way. Nothing as of right now, but don't worry. I will update everybody on that as promised. But and I had texted Takapina for just a comment on the hearing, the Fat Joe hearing on Friday, when Tyrone Blackburn said that he recently spoke to a woman or two women that said they were 14 and 16 when they were with Fat Joe, and he's given their names to law enforcement. I mean, I wanted to comment on that. I know maybe it wasn't the time or place, but I think that if I was Fat Joe's team, I would have been like, who in law enforcement did you give their names to? Like, who? Which agency? Tell me who. I want to know the details, because it's like, at this point, it's been so long. And if this happened, those women should have gone to law enforcement, but I just want to know who, right? Yeah. And that was an interesting hearing. I guess I had misheard something. So I made a correction because I could have sworn I wrote down, and granted, I was packing a suitcase for my kids and we were going away for the weekend, and I was writing notes and I was listening in. At the end, I could have sworn the judge had said, oh, we're not going to consolidate these two cases, the civil and the defamation. I'm just going to mark them related. And then on the docket, it's like the cases have been consolidated. And I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. I literally said they wouldn't be, but they are. They are. So yeah. Meanwhile, Fat Joe was unbothered. But yeah, I mean, his lawyers are like, we want discovery ASAP so we can prove that he is the victim in all of this, not, Terrence Dixon. So we'll see, because Tyrone Blackburn, he offered, or not offered, sorry, he submitted a motion to stay discovery, and they are like, no, we are not holding off on discovery. We need to get all of this in ASAP, because yeah. So anyway, oh, Sherry, no, it wasn't my son, it was my daughter. So I was just saying to Bederow earlier, I was like, we already had an urgent care trip this morning. It's not a big deal. Last night she said her eyes were itching. So I was like, shoot, what the hell does that mean? And she kind of, not to be gross, but they were like itchy. And then she just had like some like white coming out. And I was like, I was like, don't touch anything in this house. This could be pink eye. So we went to the urgent care, and she just had allergies. So, dude, what is Legionnaires? I did read that. I need to look this up. Legionnaires? What is, gosh. Let's see. I do not want this. Oh, great. It's a severe form of pneumonia caused by this bacteria. It's contracted from inhaling contaminated droplets or water droplets from sources like cooling towers, hot tubs, or plumbing systems. Ugh. Geez, that's scary. Oh my gosh. No, thank you. No, thank you. Wow. So I didn't talk about that today, Sheldon. I talked about that last week. His firing, and thank you. Yeah, I talked about it last week, and people in the chat had to sort of inform me as to what was going on about his brother getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, and how he asked ESPN, he knew it was going to happen. He kind of asked them to hold off on the firing so he wouldn't take away from his brother's big moment, and they didn't listen, and they did it anyway. So yeah, so there's that. Yeah, the Shannon Sharp case, that's interesting. I really find that interesting, and I don't want to be called a rape apologist, when I question certain things, because I told you guys on my podcast on Apple reviews, if you guys have a chance, go and leave a review for The Outlier. Lauren Conlon, Apple Podcast. Someone said I was a rape apologist. They said Harvey, Diddy, and you. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. That's so nice. Because I'm not. I'm really not. I feel like I'm super objective, but obviously you're entitled to your opinion, whoever you are. And I also got a funny review the other day where it was like, I like Lauren, but I don't really like when she talks over the video she's playing, or the source video. And you can't respond on Apple, but I want to be like, no, I do that so I don't get a copyright hit or infringement. That's why I do it. I don't do it because of any other reason than that. But Sherry, you said Malcolm Jamal Warner chatter, something up with his drowning. Oh yeah, I thought you said that. I think it was on a comment somewhere. So what I later learned after that, I thought was so sad, was that we found out his daughter, she was only 8 years old. I did not know that she was only 8 years old, that he had a young daughter. He's a little bit older. And yeah, I kind of thought maybe she was a teen. I don't even know. Not that it matters, but he was swimming with her. And I got so nervous, because my kids love to go in the ocean, with their dad, and they'll go far out, and I trust him with them, but obviously I get nervous, but yeah, he actually saved her, apparently. He was swimming with his daughter, and she obviously was in peril, and she was rescued, and he wasn't. So that's all I know. They said that he was given CPR for like 45 minutes. I think they tried to resuscitate him. Yeah, I'm not sure. So his cause of death was asphyxiation by submersion, and that was ruled accidental by the autopsy's office, or the medical examiner's office. So yeah. I don't know. That's all I know. So I'm not sure if there was anything else, but it's so sad. Oh my goodness. So sad. But yeah, I think at this point I'm looking, I shouldn't say I'm looking, but it's kind of like I really, after the Diddy trial, I realized that I love doing investigations. I thrive off of if someone tasks me with like investigating a case, like, hey, can you look into XYZ? I really enjoy doing that. I like to find connections with cases and certain things. And then I realized, after the Diddy trial, I really enjoy reporting on trials. So when I was at the crypto hearing, I was like, oh my gosh, I miss being in court. And so I'm ready for another trial to start. I'm ready, for and I mean covering it in person. I mean, streaming trials is one thing, but I think I'm ready for something like that to happen, or I would love to get tasked with, investigating another case. I can't figure it out right now, like exactly what I want to do for my next big project. Oh, bye, Afton. Hey, Rich, good to see you. So yeah, so I'm trying to figure out exactly where I want to go with some of this stuff. But I will say with the crypto case, so Dizzy and I were talking. So they were granted bail. They got this bail package, which was shocking to me, and I think a lot of people, because they were accused of kidnapping, torture, whatever. Thank you so much. I wish that too. I don't know what I'm doing anymore. So thank you. But yeah, they were accused of a lot of bad stuff. There were, there was evidence taken, photographs, but I could tell at this hearing that the Judge Caro, wasn't buying all of it, because I think I had mentioned in that video, he's like, wait, you're telling me that a running chainsaw cut this person's leg and it looks like they didn't even get one stitch. And the defense is like, this is a misunderstanding, yada yada. And then there was an article that came out in the Wall Street Journal about John Waltz maybe allegedly kidnapping another guy from Sweden for his Bitcoin password. But then it came out in the last hearing that these guys think that they're sort of like crypto vigilante justice guys. Like they they want to take the money, the crypto, the Bitcoin from evil people, so they aren't terrorists. It was just crazy. And I was like, whoa, this case is really interesting. So anyway, they were actually granted bail, house arrest, ankle monitoring, security checks every 72 hours. And yeah, I was surprised to a degree, but then I'm like, this does happen in New York a lot. And Judge Caro, many of you guys know, I had him for jury duty. And this was, I think, back in February. And I felt like, and I think I literally went and said it, I was like, I feel like he really has the back of these defendants. Like he really wants to ensure they get this fair trial. I mean, maybe to a fault. I don't know. It just seemed like he screamed at a potential juror who so obviously just wanted to get out of jury duty, right? So he did that whole thing where he goes, I was a victim, and my mother was a victim of this brutal assault by these guys, 5 years ago. And he said, so I just don't think I can be fair and impartial. He said, I just look at these guys over there and I keep thinking, there's no way they're innocent. I just look at them and I think they're guilty. And the judge flipped out at him. He's like, get out. And then he was like, why did you do a criminal trial? Why didn't you choose a civil trial? And I remember me and the guy next to me, we were like, oh shit, you can choose? Like, I didn't know that. So I was like, oh shoot, I don't want to get yelled at. But it was alarming how he screamed at this guy who pretty much was just doing what every other person does to get out of jury duty. So anyway, I can say I'm super surprised that Caro granted these guys bail. But anyway, 6 days went by and Dizzy sent me a text and she's like, yo, these guys are still in custody at Rikers. And I was like, well, that's weird. That's kind of a long time. Usually you're granted bail, you get it all together pretty quickly. So I emailed John Waltz's defense attorney and I was like, are there any issues here? Like what's going on? And he emailed me back the next day and he said, no issues. He's leaving today. And he did. John Waltz and Duplessis, they left, I think a few days ago. They left Rikers. So I will plan to email the defense attorney, figure out where they are, what they're doing. The next hearing for that case isn't until October. But something else that's like really funny. Some of you guys who watch my channel and watched me cover this case, there's this like really big YouTuber named Atozi. I think that's how you say it. I don't know, but he did this video on the case, and he used my video. He spliced it up, used my reporting throughout the entire video. He cited my Twitter, which was nice. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'll probably get some subscribers. This will be great. I like lost subscribers. I was like, go figure. I cannot figure this out for the life of me. Everybody benefits from my videos except for me. I don't understand. Sometimes I know, sorry, I'm complaining. I was just excited. And then I was like, oh man. All right. Anyway. Yeah. So like what? Okay. Who is this Atozi person? What? His videos are, I mean, I was showing my husband, I was like, dude, look at this guy. And he's like, his voice sounds like all of those YouTubers that our kids watch from time to time that have millions of subscribers, millions of views. It's crazy. I just don't understand. I don't understand. Thanks, Gary. I appreciate it. But yeah, I'm just really itching to cover a criminal case right now, a criminal trial. I'm dying for one. Or even a civil case. I want to be in court again. I want to see what's going down, or I want to investigate something. I want to investigate a case that people don't know the answers to. So, and thank you so much, Maytal. You're so nice. He's a YouTuber, TikToker who focuses on modern day. Yeah. And that's what I thought. That's what I figured. But anyway, yeah, so I appreciate you all. I plan on also doing a quick members only video today, or I'll do a member. I'm going to have an interview hopefully later today with Rob Rand, who is the journalist who has covered the Menendez brothers case since the 90s, since the day after they murdered their parents. And I will try to get that out today, or for members only today, and then for everybody else tomorrow. But he should be giving me some updates on what's going on with the Menendez brothers. And Eric is back in prison right now after leaving the hospital after some severe kidney stones. I want to get up to speed on what hearings are coming up, just because it's like there's been so much back and forth about this case. And I am so confused, I guess, when it comes to like, okay, now it's like they were denied this, but now they're going to go in front of Newsom. Now they're going to go in front of the parole board. I'm like, let's get this straight. And yeah, I mean, the Adelson trial is interesting, but I feel like everybody's covering that, and I just haven't been covering the pretrial stuff. So I'm kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if I should jump on that one, but who knows? I'm sure I'll look into it, of course. Sorry, what is that, Dizzy? August 21st and 22nd? What is that? I don't even know. Oh, you're saying the whatchamacallit, the Adelson trial? Oh, look, oh my gosh, guys. Sean gives me so much crap all the time, but he's the best. He makes me laugh. He does make me laugh. He's a funny guy. So the Karen Reed doc, it's on Fox Nation, the one that I did. It's called Karen Reed. I think it's called like Killer or Convenient Outsider. But if you do have Fox Nation, I have a couple docs with them right now. I'm in that one, and also the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni doc, which is it's called It Didn't End With Us. Oh, I know, so creative. And then the Luigi Mangione doc, which is Deny, Defend, Delay. That one, if you follow me on Twitter, I have that pinned. But that was my favorite docu-series to do, the Deny, Defend, Delay, because that was one of those cases that I just jumped right in. As soon as that happened, I went down to the Midtown Hilton, and I'm sitting there thinking that I can solve this case better than the NYPD. I'm such an idiot sometimes, but yeah, I really stayed on top of that. And again, you can sign up for Fox Nation and just cancel, watch those and cancel. And I can try to find a discount code for you guys, but I think it's pretty cheap. I think it's like $6 a month or something like that. But I know all of that adds up, especially with all of these streaming services and platforms. And I've filmed a couple more docs since then. So I do have two things coming out probably fall and then before the end of the year that I just can't talk about. So it's interesting. I've heard about this. I have heard about this with Charlemagne and Trump, and I gotta watch it because I didn't watch this whole thing. But I did see that the Twitter account at I Find Retards tagged Charlemagne. So I was like, oh shit, what's going on here? So I gotta look into that. If Taylor and Blake Lively are still besties, we don't know about it. They are keeping this on the DL. So until this civil trial concludes, if it even gets there, right now, Lively and Baldoni, they are slated for March of 2026, which is a ways away. But I would so be there for that one. Oh my goodness. And that would just be crazier than Diddy. I think Mangione is going to be crazier than Diddy too. Oh my gosh. What was Trump's response to Charlemagne? I should see this. I got to watch it before I really get into it. But anyway, guys, drop me some messages either on YouTube or on Twitter or on my email with what you want to see covered for Thursday. I'll try to get another guest here for everybody. And if not, if you don't have anything that you really want covered, I will get the latest tea, the latest details on everything that I can that is in the wheelhouse of pop crime. So thank you so much for being here. Love Mark Bederow. Like, subscribe, join, whatever you got to do, and we'll have more content later, hopefully today or tomorrow with Rob Rand. I'm really banking on it. And Dizzy, as always, love ya. Thank you so much. And I'll see you guys soon. Thanks, Daisha. Bye, everyone.